Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of your 4-part informational series. My name is Ed Katushabe, and I'm going to be taking you through the value of having a healthy weight. Now, you must understand that the information I'm providing to you here is for educational purposes only. If you have any specific medical conditions, please consult your medical health care provider for specific treatment that relates to you. I'm going to be talking about generalities here, and what we're going to be talking about is a branch off for what we spoke about in part 1, where we talked about insulin and the role insulin plays in the human body. So just to recap, insulin is a hormone that helps to shuttle glucose from the food you eat into where it is needed. Typically, if you are a sedentary person, you don't do much exercise, the body is starting to become a little bit less efficient at processing nutrients. Insulin tends to store glucose into fat tissue to be used for later energy. If you're someone who doesn't move a lot, doesn't exercise a lot, your body does not have very large energy requirements and thus tends to store as much energy as it possibly can. If you're someone with a healthy, balanced diet, then there isn't so much of an excess of available energy and you tend to store less, but due to an overconsumption of calories and carbohydrates and other macronutrients, the body can get into a cascade where it is storing more and more energy for later use, and the process of doing this tends to give you a little bit of insulin resistance. What that means is your body gets less and less sensitive to insulin because it's not being quite used the way the body intended to be used, and thus more and more amounts of it are needed to get the same job done. Ways we can overcome this, besides nutrition and through exercise, is to increase the energy demands of the body. So as you start exercising, as your body becomes more active, your muscle tissue becomes more active, there is a greater demand for energy across the human body. The carbohydrates and nutrients that you eat tend to be converted into glucose, and insulin tends to shuttle those into the working muscle tissue. This is used for immediately available energy, typically in the form of either glucose or muscle glycogen, and that helps power your exercise sessions. So your body, as it gets more efficient at using glucose for energy, it gets more and more efficient at processing insulin and getting insulin to do its job a lot better. You become a lot more insulin sensitive. Any type of exercise will achieve this goal, but it is found that resistance exercise where you're extending yourself against force, either body weight or external resistance like using weights, tends to have the best effect when it comes to increasing your insulin sensitivity. So this effect of insulin sensitivity increases is best seen over longer periods of time. So exercising once and never again is not going to be enough of a stimulus to get this result. The exercise needs to be frequent and consistent multiple times a week over multiple weeks for longer periods of time. I myself, once weighed 150 kilos, very insulin resistant, blood glucose all over the place, blood pressure all over the place. And through exercise, good nutrition, and keeping a good amount of consistency across the board, I was able to reverse all those negative health effects to the point now where everything registers as being completely normal. So it is something that you need to find a way of doing consistently. One method of doing that is finding exercise that you enjoy. Everyone is a little bit different. Some people are going to prefer weight training. Some people are going to prefer running. Some people are going to prefer at-home HIIT sessions. There's a variety of different exercise options you have available. All of them are going to work to various degrees, but the real trick, the real key to their success is consistency over time. So the real trick here is finding an exercise routine that you are able to stick to lifelong. It's about turning whatever implementation or whatever intervention you implement into a new lifestyle. One way of doing that in the very early stages is creating it as a sort of appointment for yourself. Number one excuse for not sticking to exercise, besides lack of motivation, is lack of time and lack of urgency towards it. One way you can do about that is schedule your exercise like any other appointment in your day. It's in your calendar, it's blocked out, and you treat it like an appointment with yourself. It's often thought that exercise, like the motivation for exercise, is something you need to have before you exercise, but it's actually the opposite. The motivation comes after the actual action. Building momentum by exercising, often rigorously through a schedule, oftentimes leads to more and more motivation down the road as it becomes more of a habit and eventually more of a lifestyle. So telling yourself that, listen, for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, I do not need myself to be motivated towards that goal. I'm just going to schedule it in Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 5 o'clock after I've picked up the kids from school, before I've started to cook dinner. That is my exercise time for that 20 minutes, that half hour, however long it is. Booking it in, doing it regardless of motivation, regardless of mood, regardless of how you feel, getting it done. Once you start to do that, a week, 2 weeks, a month in, it starts to become habitual, and then the motivation tends to come with it. As your body starts to feel better, your insulin sensitivity improves, the effects of obesity tend to subside, and the results start to show, your body starts to feel better, and you get more into the habit of doing it. That is what's going to lead to further motivation down the road. One of the key common mistakes that people need to tend to find themselves in is trying to find quick radical fixes. Oftentimes someone is going to attempt to go from a completely sedentary lifestyle of not exercising at all, not prioritizing their nutrition at all, and trying to fix all of those factors all at once at the most extreme version that they can find and think of. Oftentimes this is something like intermittent fasting or banting or any other, for lack of a better word, extreme measures, exercising 7 days a week, running 5-10 kilometers at a time. And the problem with that approach is it's such a drastic departure from what you were doing before and the sort of lifestyle you ideally see yourself living long term, is that it becomes very unsustainable. Oftentimes, moderation towards the goal is the best shot at success. So if you are someone who ate takeaways, 3 meals a day, every single day, popping into Woolies, buying a ready-made meal, ordering something on Uber Eats or whatever for dinner, and that is how you sort of manage your nutrition, going to salads for all 3 meals in the day isn't something that's going to be super easy or sustainable, and likely isn't the lifestyle that you are going to find enjoyable and worth living for the rest of your life. So oftentimes something as small as correcting one of the 3 meals, being like, listen, I can do my normal breakfast routine of picking up a smoothie. I will prepare my own lunch the day before, something that's healthy, nutritious, something I'm excited to eat, and then maybe I'll still get a takeout for dinner. 2 out of your 3 meals, 33% of your nutrition for the day has been corrected towards the right path. Do that for a week, a month, 3 months, however long it takes to make that habitual, and then add in the next change. Now it's breakfast and lunch. Dinner is a little bit of a rush because you've squeezed exercise in and things are a little bit faster, a little bit more fast paced in the evenings. So that one you still need to outsource. Fine, 66% of your nutrition requirements have changed for the better. And tackling it systematically like that. In terms of exercise, it's you going from 0 exercise minutes a week into I'm going to exercise consistently, religiously, twice a week, every week for half an hour at a time, and I'm going to build up towards there. Typically, the average person needs about 150 minutes of exercise per week for a healthy lifestyle, but you do not necessarily need to go from 0 to 150 all at once. You can build yourself up to it. 150 minutes of exercise being roughly about 2.5 hours of exercise per week. That one you can break down into 2 half-an-hour, 60 minutes of exercise of like hard exercise, and then doing another hour and a half throughout the week of walking 20 minutes a day, however it is, to walking 10 minutes in one direction, walking 10 minutes back, breaking it down as such. So you need to find ways to make this sustainable long term. Don't try and go from 0 to hero all in one go. Try and find something you think is actually sustainable and actually realistic. Even if in terms of weight loss progress, this slows the process down somewhat, you're you're never going to lose 20 kilos in 1 month. The best way to attempt to lose 20 kilos is to still be putting in the work, still in the process of losing it, still doing what you need to do to guarantee success a year from when you started. Oftentimes people try and lose the 20 kilos in the fastest possible time, and they tend to fall short. They'll lose 7, maybe they'll lose 10, and then they'll pick it right back up again. A year later, they are no closer to than when they started. The trick is to make it sustainable long term. So how I was able to go from 150 kilos to 100 kilos, dropping 50 kilos of body weight myself, was to A, find a mode of exercise I seem to enjoy, structure goals towards that form of exercise. So for me, it was weight training. I enjoyed weight training. I enjoyed the process of building muscle tissue. I enjoyed the process of becoming stronger. And I put goals in place of that activity. So it was less about trying to lose as much weight as possible and more about trying to get as strong as possible in the lifts I was performing at the gym. Trying to add as many centimeters in my chest and in my arms as much as I could, build as much muscle mass as I possibly could. Focusing less on the trying to lose kilos and more on performance goals. If I could add 5 kilos of strength to my bench press, that was a win for me. It made the exercise a little bit more fun. Making it more fun made it more sustainable, and that ensured long-term success. It took me about 2.5 years to drop the 50 kilos. It's a nice slow approach, but every month, every 6 months, every year, I was closer to the goal, rather than if I'd done a drastic approach where 6 months after beginning, would have quit, definitely wouldn't have lost 50 kilos. So it's about trying to find a mode of exercise that is fun for you, sustainable, and figuring out goals around that mode of exercise. If it's for you, if it's running is an enjoyable exercise for you, try and run a kilometer. After you're able to run a kilometer, try and run 2. After you're able to run 2, try and run 3. After you're able to run 3, try and run 3 in a slightly faster time. Finding little performance goals with your exercise makes it a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more long-term sustainable, makes you more likely to stick with it. If you're someone who inherently just doesn't enjoy exercise per se, no matter what exercise you try, it still seems like a chore, still try and find little performance goals within that. It's like, okay, cool. I don't necessarily enjoy running, but I'm going to run from this point to this point just to prove I can do it. I'm gonna invite my friend to do it with me, and that's going to make it slightly more enjoyable. Try and find little tricks that motivate you to keep it more long-term sustainable. So that is the role of exercise in the process of achieving a healthy weight. Next, we're going to be discussing what role nutrition has and the in-depth intricacies of how to structure your nutrition towards achieving a healthy weight. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Keep learning, keep getting better, keep absorbing as much information as you can, and together we will become the healthiest versions of ourselves.